Tales from the wild. Stories from the heart. A journey into the mind and soul of fired-up business professionals where they share their vision for the future. And hear from a different non-profit organization every month as they create awareness of their goals and their needs. Dive into a world of untamed passion as we join our host, Shireen for this month's episode of Friends from Wild Places.
Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Friends from Wild Places. I am so excited to have you all back listening. If you are there listening, if you're not and you got over it by the first or second episode, that's okay. This is not everyone's cup of tea, and that's all right. So for everyone out there, thank you so much for your support, and I'm so excited that you guys are all here. So yeah, Shireen here. I am your virtual bookkeeper and QuickBooks advisor from Shireen's Bookkeeping Services. Jen, have you ever seen a cyclist without a bike completing a goal of finishing a race? Well, in the same way, you can't have QuickBooks Online without a bookkeeper and have accurate, successful books. It's the sum of the two that gets you the complete package and avoids making valuable, time-consuming mistakes in your taxes, budget, growth, and cash flow. A business owner doesn't have time to waste because time is money. So call me today, your bookkeeper for the future. If you want to know more, go check me out on www.shireensbookkeeping.com and keep your books clean. Right, Jen?
Yes.
That's
Totally
so
agree.
awesome. Okay, great. I'm so glad to introduce my co-host for today. This is Jenn Watkins, the owner of Projects from Within Reach. So I'm so excited to have you today. So hi, Jen. Welcome.
Hi, Shireen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here for sure.
Yeah, well, you are so welcome. And how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm enjoying the summer with my kids. I brought you into a kitchen for a little kitchen chat today.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's reasons behind it that we'll get into a little later, but yeah.
Right. So Jen is a designer of kitchens and bathrooms. So we're going to get into that. But yeah, it's so good to have you. And yeah, so I have in my life at the moment going through a couple of things. As you know, Jen, I came back from the Kalahari not so long ago. And unfortunately, during my trip, my little sausage dog, Rolo, had a little bit of an accident. So she kind of walked into a thorn and the thorn penetrated her eye, unfortunately. And so being in the middle of nowhere, I had to travel quite far to get Rolo to a vet that wasn't really capable to handle such injuries, but she did her best, and I'm very grateful for her just to stabilize the injury until we got back home, which was a week and a little bit after that. And then when we got back home, we've been going to an eye specialist, Dr. Webster. He's been fantastic, and we've been fighting really hard to save that little eye. But what I wanted to say was when we were in Kalahari, the going back and forth in the middle of nowhere, I was so scared. I was so full of fear, and I was just praying every day, like, please, Lord, don't let Rolo lose her eye, please. I don't want to lose Rolo either, because what if she has to be put under, and what if I lose her because she's got a heart condition? And I was just consumed with fear of losing Rolo. And on one of my drives to the vet in the Kalahari, I just got this, while I was just praying, I just got this feeling that God was saying, why are you so fearful, Shireen? Why are you so full of fear? And I'm the one that gave you Rolo in the first place as a companion. In the same way, when it's time for Rolo to go, it's time for Rolo to go. And you need to be okay with that, and rather put your trust and your faith in me and not in Rolo. And
100%.
Right. And that was a big eye opener for me because I put everything in Rolo. And at this point, that's my biggest fear in my life right now is losing Rolo because she's taken such a big part of my life. And
right, she's your baby.
right. And I don't want to have that anymore. I feel like, no matter what happens, that God's before me, He prepares a way for me, I'll be okay. I'm not trying to be all spiritual on you right now. It's just this is
No.
life, and this is what I'm
Right.
going through. And I'm giving you a little bit of a window of a personal look into my life and what I'm going
Right.
through.
You
Unfortunately,
feel comfortable because you're in my kitchen. This is why.
right. So your kitchen has just given me this whole comfortable look, and I just feel like I can open my heart to you. So thank you, Jenn.
No, it's okay. But it's a thing that, even as a mom, of human children and of, being a pet mom as well, like we all have this fear, we all have this guilt, we all have this, everything. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I remember, so I had a cat before. I still have a cat, but I had a cat before, and his name was Bosley, and he just was always there, and he just always was that foundation and that rock. And so I totally get where you're coming from. And we always have this, what's that saying, like things come into your life for a reason, right? Like Rolo is here in your life for a reason now, and it doesn't mean she's here for 1 minute or 10 years or 12 years or whatever. Like it's done for a reason. Everything in life has a reason. And and we all have, I always say, we all have our own baggage, right? So different experiences that you have kind of shape the way your life is.
Right.
So
right.
I don't. I feel you.
Thank you. Well, yeah, as I said, next week, Tuesday, Rolo's going in to get her eye removed. So
Okay.
that is the situation right now. So we're still going through it, but I feel a little bit better knowing that, I'm with Rolo all the way. We're together all the way through this. And no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay. And so is Rolo.
Right.
No matter
Yep.
what this end might be and where this road might take me and Rolo, it's
Right.
going to be okay.
Right.
So,
And I mean, that dog has been put through, I feel like, everything. And
right.
for your listeners that don't know, maybe they should listen longer. But man, this dog just keeps she gets a roadblock and she's like, cool, I'll go this way. And another roadblock, okay, I'll go this way. Like, man.
Right. I mean, animals can teach you a lot. I feel a lot of life lessons. I feel like
Yes.
they're good examples.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's a fighter. She's gone through a lot and she's still going. And you know what? I got to allow her to be a dog, and I got to allow her to explore and have fun and have the best life that she can while she's on this earth. And if that
Right.
means she gets into unfortunate little accidents, well, Rolo and I will go through whatever that might be, and we'll be okay.
Right. But isn't that a good life lesson, right? Like keep going. You want to live your life to the fullest, right? Well, I know for me, like my dream is to, travel the world and see everything that I can see. So, if you get a little hiccup, I would call COVID a little hiccup in my travel plans. But
A little hiccup. I think it's been everyone's hiccup for 3 years now.
Yeah.
Things
But
are getting
just keep going. So
yeah.
maybe Rolo's your spirit animal and we just don't know it yet.
Maybe. Thanks, Jenn. I appreciate you listening to my little life story. But so, all the listeners out there, I'd love to tell you how I actually know and how I met Jenn. Surprise, surprise. It was through our BNI group. Wow.
What?
Right. Right. So, yeah, don't be surprised. Jenn was a part of my chapter called High Performance Referrals. She's no longer with us, but Jenn's going to mention a few things that she took away from BNI and the time that she was at BNI. Hey, Jenn.
So I was in the BNI group of High Performance Referrals, and I'm going to apologize for all my ums and ands and whatever to everybody out there. So get ready to hear them all. I was in High Performance Referrals for about a year, and that's how I met Shireen. I joined BNI because when I became a business owner, my network was very, very small because of the companies that I had worked for before, and I needed to connect with other business owners. So that's what I went into BNI for. I definitely I got some great connections, and it definitely helped my business grow. And I still have those connections, even though I'm not in BNI any longer. And there is a path that I come back to BNI at some point. It's just not right now. But yeah, it definitely helped me grow. My business is growing, thankfully. I'm thankful for that every day. And I'm thankful for people that allow me to, come into their homes and do what I do.
Yeah, the same goes for me so far when it comes to BNI, and my experience with BNI is the biggest value is building relationships. And so far, that's my
100%.
favorite one. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
met you. So, yeah, I mean, if there's anyone out there that I'm going to encourage everyone again that is a business owner and professional, that it is so crucial for you to be part of a networking group. It's a great way to build connections, build your networking group, build your business. It has many different perks to it. So,
For sure.
yeah.
And I'm going to interrupt you for 2 seconds.
Yeah, go ahead.
And just, I'm sure you'll put this out there, but I definitely feel like it's worth at least visiting. There's no pressure to visit. You can see kind of what it's like. You can connect with other business professionals. And, if you go and visit and you are like, oh, hey, I needed to talk to a virtual bookkeeper like Shireen, or there's some other members that are amazing. It's at least putting yourself out there and kind of getting that one step forward, because you have to kind of prepare a little speech as well to kind of explain who you are. And I know I was not ready for that, a year ago. And now, I've kind of got it dialed in, and now it's like, cool. How do I want to direct my elevator pitch is, how we say it. So, but yeah, it's definitely worth a look, a peek, a step in, however you want to,
Right. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if there's anyone out there that can do their business from anywhere in the world, or is situated in the Bay Area, California, because that is the area that we service, please go ahead and email me at shireen@shireensbookkeeping.com. That is shireen@shireensbookkeeping.com. Or if you're watching on YouTube, please go ahead and comment in the comments below and tell us a little bit about yourself and your business. And let's set you up for a visitation to High Performance Referrals, which is every Tuesday at 7 a.m. on Zoom. So we are a permanently online networking group, which is even more of a bonus. You don't have to go anywhere. Rise and shine, join your tribe, 7 o'clock in the morning, have your coffee and network. And it's a whole lot of fun. So yeah, so if you want to try it out, please go ahead and contact me today. And I encourage you, if it's not us, find your networking group somewhere, anywhere. It's so much of an awesome thing to have when you're a business owner and a professional.
Correct. It's totally needed too, just to kind of, spew ideas out and see what other people have. Because everybody has their own, their own baggage, their own stories, like we said earlier.
Exactly. So just a couple of categories that we are looking for. Just open your mind and maybe snap you. If you hear you somewhere in here, then you go, oh, that's me, let me go ahead and email. So we do need a lawyer, an architect, a CPA, stop laughing at me, Jen, a CPA, an enrolled agent, structural engineer, graphic designer. And that's just some of the few. If I didn't mention you here and you want to come and visit anyway, please go ahead. I didn't mention all the categories that are open in our group. And there's 1 seat per category. So you won't have more than one of your section of
There's
business.
no competition.
No competition. So that's awesome. Okay, let's get back to Jen. All right, Jen. So yes, you are a designer of kitchens and baths. I would love you to tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, please.
Okay. So yeah, I am a kitchen and bath designer, and I specify it specifically that way. Not that I can't do other spaces within the home, but that is my passion. That is my niche. I love kitchens and bathrooms. I love all the technical things that go into it. It's literally like playing a giant Tetris game every day. So if for those of you that remember Tetris and growing up with those, the Game Boys back in the day,
Yeah, me too.
that was it. But for me, I'm a mom first and foremost. I have a wonderful husband. I have 3 awesome kids. I have an older son, and then I have 6-year-old twins.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a lot. And then, business owners in there as well. So
Right.
nonstop, like the Energizer Bunny.
Absolutely. And when I say your background, have you always lived in America?
I have always lived in America, and I have always lived in California because that is home. So
Nice. Did you go to school there?
I went to school there. I actually went to a junior college first. So I don't know in South Africa if they have junior college, but basically it's like a 2-year college. And then you can either get like a certificate or a degree there, and then you can transfer over to a university,
Right.
which I did. I went to Sacramento State. Go Hornets.
Woo!
And I originally went to school for interior design, which everybody's like, of course she did, because she's a designer. My degree is actually not in interior design. I got really, really stressed, and I got this thing called stress rash. And it actually made it like literally I had like rash all down my arms, and it made it so it was hard to move my arms. And at that point, to get your degree in interior design, you had to first prove everything that you could do it by hand, and then you transferred it to the computer, which it's not so much that way anymore. But you still have to, it's like when you learn something, like you have to learn step by step by step. And so that's how design is. But my degree is actually in is in history with a minor in art history. So I learned like the history of, everything. So it kind of roundabouts back to design, and people were like, okay, so how did she get into this? I graduated, for those of you that don't know, I graduated in 2008, which is when the economy pretty much crashed and people weren't hiring for, my dream job was to work in a museum and help teach kids that came into the museum about history, about art, about all this passion and love that I have for all of this. And that just wasn't going to happen. But I was working at a little retailer. You might know of it. It's called IKEA, or better pronounced IKEA.
Right.
In America, we butcher everything, so I'm going to apologize for it all. But I worked there, and they were like, "Hey, you're a mover, you're a shaker. We're going to keep promoting you." And I was like, "Oh wait, the economy's crashing. You guys want to pay me and promote me? Cool, I'll stay here and work up this ladder." But that was not really my dream, to be a retail manager. It just was, the job. But I was enjoying what I was doing. But what's funny is I kind of always managed to be in a remodel while at IKEA in different positions, but I always seemed to land on a remodel somewhere in the store. And so it kind of became funny, and I became known as the remodel manager.
Nice.
But I worked in kitchens and I worked in bathrooms, and I would help clients, little by little, about different, they bring in their plans, you say, cool, here you go, that was it. And I was like, wait, but I want to see what happens, like, show me what happens. And so some people would come back and show photos, but it just was like, you got a little dip into it. And when my twins were born, life has a way of being like, hey, this maybe isn't the path anymore. Just kind of like you were talking about with Rolo, like you were going out, you're going to have this grand adventure, and whoops, something happened. And so my twins were born, and we knew that there was a possibility of twins. So for people going, oh, did she know? It was natural, just in case you want to know, it was natural.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so my priorities changed, because I am a very workaholic person. That's just that's how I was raised. I had two, my grandmother and my mother are both strong women and very like cool, we're going in, we're going to get everything done that we can get done and move. So I've had that strong mentality that way. So that's how my kids came along, and I said, cool, I don't want to work these random retail hours anymore, and there's got to be a better way. And so I moved on to IKEA's installation company, and I went out to people's houses and got to see, instead of them bringing me their measurements, I was measuring, and I had to figure out, okay, cool, we've got this box, how do we fit it in your space, how does it work for you, and let's move on from there. And it just was, kind of crazy in that way. And then I'll tell you a little bit later, because I'm sure you're going to ask, but how I started my own business. But yeah, let's just say there was a client.
Well, there you go. There's my next question. Thanks, Jenn. When did you start your business, Projects Within Reach?
So I started my business. See, you don't even have to ask me. I'm just going to lead you right into it. I started my business in 2019. I left my job at the installation company. I just saw it wasn't as customer friendly as I really felt that the whole remodeling construction industry needs to be. And it's like when you do something, you kind of, well, how I work is you do something and you're like, well, can't always be that way. Like, how can we make this situation better? And I had done my own remodels, and I had done all that, and I had all this construction knowledge, and I had all the design as well. And I'm a member of NKBA, so National Kitchen and Bath Association, which has rules and regulations. Next to a sink, you need to have 24 inches. Next to a stove, you need to have a minimum of 15 inches. I could keep going,
Wow.
but these are all the numbers that are in my head. So, to have something, beautiful and come out, it's all these things that you have to think about.
Yeah.
But I started my business, and literally I was trying to get up off the ground, and I got a phone call. Hey, can you help me with this kitchen? Sure, not a problem. And
That's so awesome. Well, since you're on it, please tell us a little bit more about your business and what you do in your business. We've spoken about that already. You can elaborate a little bit more, because I love design myself. So I love
right. Everybody watches HGTV, right? And HGTV makes it look really simple. And there's a lot of planning that goes into things, for sure. So what I do is I help my clients from start to finish. That's the easiest way to say it. I can do everything from plans, which is usually the hardest part, not in terms of my side, but in terms of getting clients to lock down to a certain thing. Because I can go into a space and say, hey, this is what I think. But number one, I don't live there, right? I'm not in their space every day. I just look at the space and for what it is. Right. And I want the clients to really get them in the space. I'm there for 5 minutes, and they're there for a lifetime, or however long they are there. So it really has to be first and foremost function first. Anybody can, throw cabinets into a space, but it's, how you really think through the process. But it starts with plans, and that the plans could start, not so much the drawing of the plans, but the planning of the space could start, 6 months, a year before we even get plans documented.
Absolutely.
And then I can help them from specifying, what tile, what toilet, what kitchen cabinetry, what appliances, everything that goes into it. And it's really up to the client on how little bit they want me into the picture, or how, do they want me to run the whole gamut, because I can connect with contractors and get that process going as well. And then I'm there to follow up, because I know all this construction. I know where the outlets are supposed to be. I know where, we're supposed to put headers and soffits and, those kinds of things. So.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. So tell me something. What are the things people need to know before starting renovating their bathrooms or kitchens?
Planning. Think of the dream that you want, right? Like, everybody has a dream. We all look at magazines, we all scan Instagram and see, ooh, that's awesome. So planning is first and foremost. Because if you don't have a plan going into it, it's kind of like this giant question mark. And I actually have a whole like checklist that I go through. Literally, the NKBA, the National Kitchen and Bath Association, has a 26-page survey that I have that I can walk through with my clients. No, I
That's
don't show up
cool.
and go, cool, let's go through all these pages. But it's everything from how tall are you? Are you right-handed? Are you left-handed? Like it's all of these things that you have to take into consideration. And a lot of it I can walk into the space and notice. But again, that goes back to the function of it all, but planning first and foremost, because if you were doing a project, Shireen, and you were like, Jen, I love this and 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 this, and I say, cool, because the next part I'm going to say is, what is your budget? And you're going to be like, yeah, so my budget is only $50,000, right? I'm going to say, great. So those 10 things that you just listed off, that's great, Shireen. But with your budget, that's not going to be possible. And this is why my company is called Projects Within Reach, because everybody has a project and everybody has a budget.
Right.
And so it's making that project within reach. And you're always going to have compromises. You're always going to have that, because if you tell me, hey, Jen, I have $50,000 for a kitchen, I'm going to say, okay, really, we have about 25,000 for that kitchen, because I'm giving 25,000 to the contractor, because that's what it's going to cost. And so now we need to talk about, am I doing appliances in that? Or are you okay to use your old ones for now and then we'll change later? Or like, there's those kinds of compromises, because 25,000 with the way the market is going right now and prices are just kind of increasing and increasing, you know, we do our best.
Right.
But ultimately we want the client to be happy. And that's really what it's about, and not taking them outside of their budget, outside of their comfort zone, you know, like when it comes to budgeting.
That's awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. And what are some of the common mistakes people make when they renovate their kitchens and bathrooms?
Some people get really stuck on that budget and won't think through, like they won't vary a little bit. And that's not to say, cool, I want to spend more money, but it's, you know, sometimes you don't think through, like, do you need a trash cabinet? Does your trash cabinet, I'll speak specifically about kitchen, you know, does your trash cabinet need to be next to your sink? Well, when you're prepping your vegetables or prepping for your dinner, do you do that right next to the sink, or do you do that on the island, or do you do it on the peninsula, or where do you do that? And it's really thinking through how you work in that space.
Right.
When it comes to like a spa-like bathroom, right? Like that's the dream. It's, do you buy, you know, large bulk shampoos and conditioners? Where are you going to store them? Like, do you have a wall niche in your shower? That's like, you know, it's like the need, you know, I always go to hotels and they have like those little things,
soap dishes
that you can put your soap dish. Yeah. And I'm like, if I bring my soap from home, like my soap is, you know, yay big, like that doesn't fit.
Right.
But, you know, in a hotel, that person's only there for a night or two or whatever, maybe a week max. So they don't have to think about that so much in commercial. But when it's in residential, for sure, you have to think through a gamut of things.
Wow. That is so interesting, because a lot of those things you don't even think about. You know, you just want to, you see a photo and then you're like, oh, I want this kitchen, give it to me. But you don't think about, you know, what do you do in the kitchen, and what are your likes or dislikes in the way you work, and, you know, what you have in your cupboards or what you have in your bathrooms. And you just see a picture and you go, oh, I want this. Just give it to me, not realizing, does it fit your lifestyle?
Yeah, I've seen lots of those photos. I call it the whole open shelf movement. You know, everybody saw all the open shelves out and, oh, look, we could put our dishes and then we don't have to have these cupboards. And I said, I hate to be the reality fairy. I love to call myself the reality fairy, self-titled, but I'm like, if you're using those dishes every day, you know, we have dandruff and dust and everything. And I said, that's just going to your dishes. So you have to actually wash them before you use them. And people are like, maybe I don't want open shelves. Or the mom, I have all my mom hat on all the time. You know, do you want glass cabinetry? Because do you really want to be showing off the plastic plates that your kids are eating off of? Probably not.
Not right.
So it's
that's so true.
Those things. It's thinking, and you know what? If they want glass cabinets to show off their kids' dishes, cool. That's your house. and ultimately it's their house, it's not mine. So it's funny when I get the question about like, what's your design aesthetic, Jen? And I'm like, why does my design aesthetic mean anything? Because it's your house.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm working for you.
That's true. Oh my gosh, this is awesome. Okay, so what's your heart behind your business, Jen?
I do it because I want to help people. Ultimately, it's not, the money's nice.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Isn't that what we all say as business owners? It's nice to get paid for what the dream is to get paid for what you love to do. I get to play Tetris every day. I get to meet new people that I wouldn't necessarily meet, every day. I get to see new and interesting houses. And at the end of the day, I get to help people have a better life, a better experience in their home. It's going to be dusty, it's going to be dirty, but it's at the end of the day, it's depending on their project, it's, a month to 6 months to whatever, they get to have this beautiful home afterwards. And that for me is, first and foremost, that's what I do it for.
That is so cool. And tell me, what do you want people to know about what you do?
So what have I not already said?
So if I'm listening and an inspiring designer one day, and I'd like to do that one day, what would you like me to know about what you do?
If you're looking to go and remodel someday.
Yeah, if I want to be what you are one day, listening, or whatever the case may be. If someone just wants to become a designer, what do you want them to know about what you do? Being someone that's been in the industry for a few years,
A decade, yeah. Okay. There's not one path into design, but I would make sure that you definitely find your niche, because when you try and focus on too many things, you end up failing, right? Is that there's like some saying out there for that. And like I said before, like I can do other design, but I know that my passion is kitchens and bathrooms. I get excited. Clients love the finish, right? I love seeing the walls when they're bare and we're putting electrical in. I'm not physically doing it, so don't think that. But as a kitchen and bath designer, I have to have that construction knowledge. And literally, I have a book this thick that, kind of spells it all out, So
right. Yeah,
there's
like
all
to see the process.
but yeah, take a step in, do an online class,
That's awesome.
talk to a
Cool.
designer.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. And you have a YouTube channel, don't you?
I do have a YouTube channel where you can see some of my work. You can hear me give tips and tricks and things, because really at the end of the day on my YouTube channel, it's all about like having that friend that's just like, hey, just want to give you some tips. Like, it's not, if you want to talk to me, cool, I'm willing to talk, but obviously.
Right, obviously.
But yeah, I do have a YouTube channel, at Projects Within Reach.
Right. So, I mean, for the listeners, I've gone and watched a couple of your videos, and it's fantastic. It's very informative. Go and check her out. It's Projects Within Reach on YouTube. So, yeah, talking about you being on the podcast today.
Yes.
I'd love to just talk about Buzzsprout, which is the platform that I use for my podcast. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and the team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Start with some gear that you already have and a quiet space. If you want to upgrade, Buzzsprout has tons of guides to help you find the right equipment at the right price. Following the link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you. Gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan and help support our show. That's buzzsprout.com. Start your podcast today. So, for the second part of our podcast today, I have a special visitor from the nonprofit American Cancer Society. So, let's welcome her into the room. All right. Bethany, can you hear us? Ah, she's connecting. Okay.
She's connecting still.
Connecting.
Everybody's Zoom issues. Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning, Bethany. What's that?
To do all the clicks, to get me live. I had to click here and here and here.
Right. I know what that feels like. Bethany, welcome on the show. I'm so glad to have you here. Right. This, for everyone that's listening, this is Bethany Lynch, who is a senior development manager from American Cancer Society in Florida, USA. So I'm so glad to have you. Welcome, Bethany.
Thank you so much for having me. I had to represent Florida with my palm trees in the background.
Stunning. Absolutely. Sure. We love that. So, Bethany, how I met you again is through BNI. I love
Awesome.
BNI. So I think everyone knows that the people I bring on here are all connected through BNI, which is a testament to BNI, just by the way. So even though you constantly hear me talking about BNI, it just shows you how many people you meet and how many connections you make. So yeah, I met Bethany through BNI and I'm so happy to have her here. Her chapter name is Professional Biz Connections. So yeah, welcome, Bethany. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. My favorite question.
Thank you. I too love BNI, and I think it's phenomenal and just so crazy that we found each other and you're in another country and I'm here and I love it. But we're so virtual now, we can really do business and work together from anywhere, which is really nice. So, okay, so about me, I am a proud Air Force brat. So my father was active duty Air Force my whole childhood up until college, and that allowed me the opportunity to live all over the world. So while I am an American and I live in the United States, I moved around the world, and I didn't, of course, appreciate it when I was a kid, moving every 2 to 4 years. And I didn't understand the benefit to me at that time, but it really afforded me the opportunity to be accepting and inclusive and tolerant of so many different cultures and people. And so I am an includer and always do that. And so my friends always tease me. They're like, you pick up the strays everywhere you go. And I'm like, well, that's because I was always the stray, right? So I'm like, I was always the stray. So I am really grateful for that experience and super proud of that part of me as well. So while I moved my whole young life, I've now lived here in Florida for 21 years in Sarasota with my husband, Sammy, and we are raising 2 lovely teenagers at the moment. Our daughter, Lily, who's 17 and getting ready to start her senior year of high school, and our son, Samuel, who is 14 and starting his freshman year of high school. So never knew how much I didn't know until they tell me every day how much I need to learn. So, but that's fun. So pray for me and pray for Sammy that we get through the next few years of.
Right. Don't worry. Shaven. Yeah, it sounds exciting.
It's super fun. And then as far as my career goes, I have been with ACS, which is our short for American Cancer Society. I've been with ACS for 5 years, but before that, I had a corporate job. I was a pharmaceutical rep for Pfizer for 13 years. And then I had my own race planning business for 5 years and found myself here.
Right. That's going to lead into my next question. How did you get involved with American Cancer Society? Yeah.
So I like to say that the stars aligned, or the universe brought me here, because I actually thought I had, after I had left corporate America and had done my race business, I thought, I'm really going to try and be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to try this. So after about a year of that, the universe had another plan. And my husband, after his 20 years with his company, got laid off. So while financially we would have been okay before, it was before COVID and all that, I think that staying in the house with each other all day long proved to be a little more challenging, as we all learned during COVID, right? Like, but this was a pre-COVID experience. We were like, oh my gosh, we're here together all the time. So anyway, so I started looking to see, like, you're in my world, you go to your world. So we started.
I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time.
It's so funny because we had, like I said, we had that experience prior to the world having the experience in COVID, but we were like, now you're micromanaging my stay-at-home duties. And like, it was just so weird. And we couldn't, because he didn't have anybody else to manage. So he was managing me. And I'm like, this is tough. So I said, okay, my turn. So I went, I found the job. And of course, I mean, it was making strides against breast cancer, planning the event. And I'm like, well, I can do that. That's great. And you don't have to think too far. Everybody is affected by cancer. So yes, of course, the mission was important to me. I lost 3 of my grandparents to cancer, and several other family members had been affected by cancer as well. So it just was like, it was a no-brainer. So then after that, my sister, so 2 years after I had been working here, my sister was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? Like, I thought I was paying it forward so that perhaps we weren't going to have to go through a situation like that. But so the thing was that my involvement and my 2 years of experience with the ACS really proved invaluable to my family while we were navigating through that, just the uncertainties of a cancer diagnosis. So that's how we got here, right? Yeah.
That is amazing. Just shows you how everything works out.
That's what I said. Yeah. So everything aligned, and I did not know that I was going to be 48 years old in a nonprofit that possibly saved my sister's life and all that. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about what you do there.
So my role as a development manager is to raise the money, revenue generation for the nonprofit to do all the good things that we do, right? So my sales experience with pharmacy, that's what they wanted me to do. And I was like, okay, I thought I was going to be planning a race. I didn't know I was, which is what I had been doing for the 5 years. They're like, no, that's great. But let's talk about sales experience. I'm like, so yeah, like, I understand now. So everything, we have several different products, if you will, like the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, Real Men Wear Pink kind of product. And then we have Relay for Life and different galas, but I focus on everything pink. So all the breast cancer world. And so from sponsorship, generation and stewardship, from working with our high fundraisers, from committee members to plan the logistics of the event, from recruiting and motivating fundraisers, and it's everything in the community having to do with the breast cancer movement that we have. Yeah, and it is actually, it's funny because it's actually a year-round thing. It kind of ebbs and flows, right? But everything starting now until the end of October is pretty busy. But after that, it's stewarding those relationships to make sure that the sponsors and the donors and the volunteers understand where their money goes, what they're doing, how they're helping, and what they're supporting.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would say, I'm proud to say that our community, because it's a community event, I'm just kind of leading the volunteer community. Our community is charged with raising over $500,000, and just from our little couple counties, and we've met or exceeded those goals for the last few years. So it's amazing to look and see what our community has.
Oh, congratulations. That is so cool.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the American Cancer Society, what is the mission, vision, and values, Bethany, of that nonprofit?
So the mission of the American Cancer Society, you'll see it everywhere we are, it's to save lives, celebrate lives, and lead the fight for a world without cancer. That's what we do. Everything that we focus on, every pillar of work that we work in is to save lives and celebrate lives and lead the fight for the world without cancer. So, and when you asked, I was like, let me see if I can find what the written down values are. So I do have those, and I knew all of this, but I love to see where it's written from corporate. So, of course, integrity, right? Integrity. The American Cancer Society is the cancer authority for cancer information. We have been in this space for so long, doing the necessary, getting the truth, getting the facts about the science. So integrity and compassion. We are caring for and supporting all the people that are touched by cancer, whether it's the patient themselves or the family member or the provider who's taking care of those patients. So compassion, courage, of course, there's a lot of challenges out there. So we are not deterred by the challenges. Determination, we've been doing this for a long time. I think, over 100 years. So we're not giving up, we're not leaving. So we are determined. And diversity, which I love to say, because even 5 years ago, everybody now is talking about diversity, right? And inclusion, and everybody has a diversity and equity and inclusion department. We've always had that. And we've always focused on underserved communities, the different, the diverse communities. And so I'm proud to say that we thought that way before it became the news.
Right.
Right? So
right. It's been around for a long time. Yeah.
And we've been doing it for a long. We actually, so it's just we finished in the United States Pride Month ended yesterday.
Yes.
And we had an interview, a panel with a couple different experts, and one of the gentlemen, he was in his 60s, and he said, I came out when I was 14 years old. So think about how long ago that was, right? And we asked him, what could the American Cancer Society do to be inclusive and more equitable in this space? And he said, keep doing what you're doing. You all have done this for so long. And I'm like, no, that's amazing, right?
Exactly. That is so cool. And then what does the American Cancer Society how does the American Cancer Society serve the community?
So many ways, right? So if you think about the American Cancer Society, I'll just kind of ask you real quick, like, what do you think about when you think about the American Cancer Society?
Well,
what's the thing you think of?
Right. So what I was actually going to mention after this was I think for me, the biggest thing I have seen is the impact that cancer makes on the families itself, especially on children, when it's children's cancer and what happens to the family when they have to actually leave their job because either they have to be permanently at the hospital with their child, so a loss of income, and then it doesn't just last a few months, sometimes years and years. And so it really impacts the family. And so what I love about the American Cancer Society is that you support the families as well. It's not just about the victims of cancer. And it is horrible. It's horrible because the victims go through a lot as well. I mean, it's not just, I've got cancer. Oh, I'm going to fight cancer now. Oh, okay, possibly I've beaten cancer, but it's also the afterlife of
the whole continuum of care, right? Like the diagnosis, the treatment, the way it affects the family. And then, like we talked about, living with cancer, living after cancer, right? That's a whole other thing. Survivorship, right? That's a whole other thing. And then, you are much more versed, I think, than many people are when you ask them about what the American Cancer Society does. Because most people will say, well, they fund research. Well, yeah, we fund research. Okay. So I will tell you that, yes, the American Cancer Society funds research. We are actually the largest nonprofit funder of research, and so not non-governmental funder. So that's amazing.
Yes,
and so the
fantastic.
discovery, the research that leads to the breakthroughs in the treatment for cancer. So if you looked over the past 100 years, or even 75 years, the discovery pillar of the American Cancer Society has led to most major breakthroughs in cancer treatment, prevention, and diagnosis. So that's what we're doing, which is great, right? Like, we're super proud of that, which is amazing. So then you also have, thinking of the pillars. So we have discovery, then we have advocacy. So I'm not sure what the governments are like in South Africa, but in the United States, we have our state, our state and federal government, and we have advocacy teams that are fighting for cancer patients' rights at all of these levels of government so that we can help remove those barriers to care, right? So just a cancer patient should have access to all the care that they need. So the other thing is what you talked about, that direct cancer support, that patient support.
Yes.
We provide 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365-day a year support for cancer patients and their families and their friends throughout that cancer continuum, which is awesome, which is really great. And, so then you think about, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but, you think about in that cancer journey or when you have that diagnosis, there's so many questions you have, and you go to the doctor and you hear, it's like Charlie Brown's parents, like you can't understand what they're saying. You're like, well, okay. So you then take that information and then you call the 800 number for the American Cancer Society, or you go to cancer.org and you get that patient support, which is amazing. So, and then of course, talking about equality and being in the communities and making sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to be, prevent, detect, and treat cancer. So that's what's happening in the community.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah.
Great.
So I would have thought that, everyone would have known about supporting the patients and, the research. But what I like about you guys specifically is that you include the support for the families as well.
Yes.
Because I know that you do get some nonprofits like Family Reach, and they only focus on the support of the family because they feel that the family does get neglected a little bit as opposed to the victim itself of cancer. And so I love the fact that you guys are all round, you do everything.
Well, and because it doesn't just affect a person in a silo, like it affects the whole unit. And I think about one of our patient support, well, there's two. Okay. So one of the patient support areas is our Road to Recovery program. So that is getting a ride to and from treatment. If you can't get there, you can't get better. All right. So here I am, 5 years ago, parent of, at the time, not teenagers, right? 2 young kids. I have a husband who works full time. I have a lot of family. So I'm like, well, why would I need Road to Recovery? Why would I need a ride to treatment? I can take care of that. So I always try to think about, how does it affect me? Like, how could I apply this to my life? And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, well, if this happened to me, my kids at the time, they were going in 10 different directions a day. They needed rides here and there. So my husband would have had to do that because that was my job, right? So my husband would have had to do that and or take off work to do those kinds of things. So you don't want to disrupt the kids' whole world just because I have to go to treatment. So I'm like, okay, I could utilize that so that the rest of my family's life could continue as close to normal as possible. Right? Yeah. So I thought, well, that makes good sense, right? And so that it's not just that little old person who lives by themselves who needs a ride to treatment. It's not just that person, right?
Yes.
So you have to try to, and now with gas prices being as high as they are, this is a great opportunity. You're like, let me schedule a ride. I don't have to pay for my gas, because you have to travel 30, 40 minutes to get to.
Right.
So, because your gas prices are probably cheaper in Florida than they are in California.
Yeah, I know. We're competing with California right now, I think so.
They are? Wait, hold on. Stop right there. Are you telling me that it's different prices for petrol?
Yeah, because each state taxes them differently.
Oh, yeah.
And I met a German when I was skiing in the winter, and he told me that our prices in California were just as high as they were in Germany. So, yeah.
So another thing I wanted to just point out, and before we get on to the next question, many people have heard of the Ronald McDonald houses, right? That's where the children during their cancer. So the American Cancer.
I'm so proud that I know about them. I don't know why. I'm in South Africa and I know about them.
Well, the American Cancer Society
shows.
has the Hope Lodge. We have Hope Lodges. So we have over 200 Hope Lodges near major cancer institutions that people can go with their caregiver and stay for an unlimited amount of time during any part of their cancer treatment. So it can be your initial your initial treatment. It could be your surgery. It could be during radiation. It could be for follow-up. It could be at any time that you need it. And that's really an invaluable support offering, because we talked about the cost, right? I mean, there are so many costs that we can't pay them all, but this is something that we can do. And I saw that personally with my sister. She traveled to New Orleans for 2 different sessions. The first time she and my parents went, and why would you listen to baby sister? So they went and stayed 10 days in a hotel.
Wow.
So 10 days in a hotel, large enough for 3 people, one that's, just after surgery. It's not cheap. Had to fly there and to stay there, So the second time they went, I was like, please reach out to the American Cancer Society. Please utilize the Hope Lodge. And she and my dad were like, oh my gosh, it was so amazing and so welcoming and so comfortable and just so warm. And they had like a meditation room. They have a reading. It's just beautiful. It's a wonderful experience, and it's completely free to the patient. That's why I do my fundraising.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's probably more understanding as well than a hotel, because a hotel, you're going to have all those like gawkers, like, what the hell happened to her?
Right. Well, and that was the thing. So they have a big kitchen, and then you've got people in there that are all going through some similar situation that you are. And it really builds that community, so you don't feel like you're alone. And that's the whole point. You don't ever want a cancer patient or their family to feel like they're going through it alone, because it's scary. So yeah, so it was really, and then, and you're in a hotel, they don't care that you're not feeling good. They're going to come knock on your door and, ready to clean. And they're like, no, I just fell asleep. So the Hope Lodge is amazing. So
that is awesome. That's so cool to hear. I did not know that. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
So Bethany,
what's
that?
So what's next?
Well, I was going to ask you, can people donate or volunteer towards your nonprofit?
Yeah, so I think you've heard me, like, we couldn't do anything that we do without donors and without volunteers. So the American Cancer Society started over 100 years ago by a community of volunteers that said, we have to make a difference. So we are staff supported, but volunteer driven. So you can, become a volunteer. You can make a tax deductible donation. You can participate in an event. All of those things, and all of it is found through cancer.org or our 800 number. So you can find anything and everything you want. It's like 50,000 pages of information on cancer.org. So, but if you don't want to search on the website, you can always call the 800 number. And every community has some way to participate and volunteer. So,
okay. So that's cancer.org.
Cancer.org.
And the number is 0800?
It's 800-227-2345. So 800 ACS 2345.
Awesome. And so if people needed assistance and they wanted to reach out to you, they can call that number. And that's awesome.
So and again, it's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you will get a person, and which is pretty amazing. And not to sound like a broken record, it was funny. I was doing a presentation one time and people kept asking me the questions, and I'm like, cancer.org, that's where you'll find the information. If you want cancer facts and figures, you go to cancer.org. We also have the international cancer facts and figures on there. So if you want to look at, what are the incidences of XYZ cancer, you can find that on there. So
awesome. I was going to say, is that worldwide?
So worldwide, anybody can reach out for that. Yes. So I don't know. I know that there's all the different languages. There's like 20 different languages that people are on the phone. They can connect you to the right person. But we have partnerships internationally for sure. I mean, I know we definitely work in Puerto Rico, and our CEO works with international as well. So there's a lot of good work being done all over.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, thank you so much.
So, and we talked this earlier this week, and I think it's important. 1 in 3 women and 1 out of every 2 men will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So that is a staggering number. Like, it's crazy to think about that, right? But the mortality rates have gone down. So the work that's being done, the research, the prevention, the treatment, all of that that's being done, we are making, not to be a pun, but we're making strides, right? We're making strides in that fight against cancer. So interesting statistics. So more than $3 billion have been invested in cancer research since 1991, and that's 3.5 million fewer cancer deaths. So we're making it, it's making an impact.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is
yeah.
That is so cool. So I'm really glad and excited that you came on, because I think cancer is a really close to the heart topic for everybody all over the world. I think someone has been touched by cancer in some way, shape or form. And I know I have, so it's a big thing for me, and so glad that you took the time just to come on here and spread awareness and talk about what American Cancer Society does. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. So
if
ladies,
you don't remember anything that I said today, the only thing you need to remember is if you or someone you know is diagnosed with cancer, you call the 800 number, call the American Cancer Society, because from that 800-227-2345, you are connected to all the resources, everything you need. So again, you can't think of all the things you need when you don't know what you need, but when you can call somebody who can help walk you through that, help navigate through the journey, just reach out to the American. And people tell us all the time, maybe me more because I work here now, but you always are hearing about my sister, my brother, my uncle, so-and-so was diagnosed with cancer. And you're like, I'm really sorry to hear that. How can I help? Can I bring you food? Can I clean your house? But these kinds of things. But now you can say, you need to call the American Cancer Society, right? Like you can do something for them that they didn't know. Most people are saying, I didn't know I could do that. So now you all are empowered and armed with some way to help when somebody tells you that.
100%. Yeah. Thank you so much. And for the listeners out there, if you just want to take some time and go to the website and just donate, whether it be $1, $2, doesn't matter. If you want to help, that is a great way to help. If you don't have, a American Cancer Society in your area and you have a heart to help out, please donate, go and whatever little bit you want to give, it helps. It goes a long way, especially if we all come together and do this. So thank you so much. But ladies, I do want to, before we go to the last segment of the podcast, I do want to just ask you, why do you do what you do? So Bethany, why do you do what you do?
Because it has to be done, right? I do it because it has to be done, because 1 in 3 women and 1 in 2 men are diagnosed with cancer. Because we need the funding, we need the research, we need the information out there. So once you become aware of, once your eyes are open, you can't not do it, right? It has to be done. I want my children to grow up in a world where hearing the words "you have cancer" don't necessarily mean a death sentence, or maybe they don't have to ever hear the words "you have cancer." That would be even better, right? So to take the fear away and just to make a difference. So that's why I do it. And again, if you had asked me 10 years ago, or when I was a young person starting out with my big corporate job, would I have thought that I would ever say that? Probably not. I was like, how much money can we make? And how, what kind of car can I buy? And what kind of house am I going to get? But once you realize it's not about that, it's not, making a difference. Like, it's kind of like, doesn't really matter if you get cancer, you can't you can't live your life. So
exactly. Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, tomorrow's not guaranteed. I always say that. I mean, that's one of the biggest things we've learned, especially through the pandemic. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So live your life today.
And we can do all the things. We can do as many of the things as possible to help reduce the risk.
Yes.
And some might happen, but at least you've done what you can.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Jen? Why do you do what you do?
Just to help people, because not everybody has a friend that can come help them, give them their opinion on design, for sure. So not everybody can have a beautiful kitchen like this without, that.
Right. That's what I wanted to say. That is one of the kitchens you've designed behind you right now. If you're watching on YouTube, is that correct, Jen?
Yeah, this was a few years
So if
ago.
you're
But yeah.
watching on YouTube right now, Jen is sitting in one of the kitchens she's actually designed. So she is very talented. So if you're looking for a great kitchen and bathroom designer, please, I am recommending Jen over and over and over again because I think she's fantastic. So, all right. So we've come to the last part of the podcast, ladies, which is story time or ask a question time. And today we're going to ask a question. So you can ask any question about my life, South Africa, business, you name it. I don't, whatever tickles your fancy. So go ahead. Jen, you can go.
It's like adult truth or dare. I'm ready. So I know, Shireen, you go on crazy adventures, but I'll open it to you as well, Bethany. What's the craziest adventure that you've done? Because life is all about adventures, and it doesn't have to be, super crazy, but that one adventure that kind of sticks out to you as well. Ooh, I love that I've stumped you both. I love it.
I've had quite a few adventures in my life, but I think one of the most memorable ones would probably be me in my younger self when I went over to Indiana to become a camp counselor. I know that sounds so funny. But it was awesome living in a forest and living inside a little log cabin and having different children every week and doing all these fantastic activities. And I think that was, the second time I've ever been in the States. The first time I went to the States was when I was 16 for a school group. But the second time I went was when I was a camp counselor at one of the YMCA camps called Potawatomi. And that was probably the most memorable. I mean, the activities were great. The children was great. And we did sailing and I taught dancing. And so, yeah, I mean, that adventure was great. I met some awesome family, and that's where I actually met who I call my American family. They kind of adopted me. So I had an extra month when I was done camp counseling where I didn't have anything to do. And my American family, the mom of one of the girls that I made friends with, another camp counselor, came and collected me. She's like, come, pack your bags. You're spending the next month in my house and we're going to go all over the place. So we went to festivals. It was Indiana. I mean, Indiana was fantastic. It was so country. And I mean, I'm a country lover myself. So country music, everything country, I absolutely love. So it was so nice to see Indiana and explore and do some of the festivals, the Apple Festival. I don't know if any of you have heard half these festivals, but they have these fantastic festivals. And so I thoroughly enjoyed that time. And we also, I didn't just stay in Indiana. I went to Chicago to go and explore there. And yeah, it was just so awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
We have some pretty cool festivals in California. So we have the Garlic Festival, the Artichoke Festival, the Asparagus Festival.
I'm coming. Just saying. Just wait for it. I'm coming.
That's funny. So I think, and it's sad that this was so long ago, my adventures happened when I was a kid and living all over the world, right? That's some really cool things to do. We lived in Germany for 4 years and went all over Europe and did some really cool things. And I can remember thinking, I do remember being appreciative of this when I was there, but riding because it was still communist Germany, and taking the train from West Germany through East Germany to get to West Berlin. Wow. So I remember being on the train as a kid and armed guards walking by, and they're like, don't look out the window, you're in the communist part now, you can't look outside. And then arriving in West Berlin, which is so weird that you had a capital anyway, going through the checkpoint and then going to West Berlin and then going over to the wall, and then just all of that. I remember thinking, this is crazy. And then the stores in East Berlin, they had all this stuff on the front, but then there was nothing inside them.
Wow.
Just, like, be careful that people are going to want to buy your Levi's off of your body. Yeah. So I just remember thinking all these really cool adventures that I had as a child that you don't have. I didn't have any. I wouldn't have had. My kids haven't had because they live in Florida. So interesting. Just growing up like that was an adventure. It was really cool.
Bethany, it sounds like you need to create another adventure for yourself.
I did go to the Bahamas, right? Not the normal Bahamas, but we went to the Abaco Islands of the Bahamas. So that was kind of rural and rustic. You can only get there by a boat. So that was kind of fun.
Awesome.
So that, that's
right. I mean, it's whatever it is, it is your adventure. I mean, for me, something saying to you that I went, that was one of the most memorable, what the
memorable
goodness me. Most memorable times would be something like a summer camp. For you guys, that's every day. But for me, I remember it was only the second time I'd ever been to the States, and I was still young. And I remember I had to take so many flights to get to the Indiana airport. And then I had to find my own way to a train station all by myself. And from the train station, had to catch a train to another train station. And then from there, get out, and someone was going to pick me up that I had no clue, I'd never met in my life before. So, and my bag broke. So it was like...
You get here, you're like, I've accomplished so much by getting here, right?
Right. So for me, it was my adventure. So yeah. Thanks, Jen. Bethany, what's your question?
Well, I had one in my mind that I was going to ask you. And then last night I was like, this is such a more fun question. So what is your go-to karaoke song? If you were forced to sing karaoke, what would you say?
Why is that song? I don't know why, but the song, walk out the door, don't turn around now, because you're not welcome anymore. Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know right? You have to dance like that too, right?
Right. What is the name of the song though?
I Will Survive.
I Will Survive. That's it. Thank you. I Will Survive is the answer to that question. What about yourself, Jen?
I would say Amazed by Lone Star. It's such a great song. You love country, you don't know Amazed by Lone Star.
How does it go, Jen?
Well, now it's time to sing karaoke.
I don't have the words on the screen.
No, I know that song. I'm just trying to get you to sing a little bit.
So funny. Love
what about yourself, Bethany? What is your go-to?
So I haven't sang karaoke in a long time, but my go-to song used to be, and probably still would be because I would think I could still do it, would be Janis Joplin, Me and Bobby McGee. Oh. And after a couple cocktails, you get really good at that one.
I'm sure. Well, I'm being honest. I have never heard of that song.
I mean, Janis Joplin, right? It's definitely it's an older song, but it's a good feeling song. You've got to listen to it. It's great. It's groovy.
Go on YouTube and check it out.
You're not going to sing a line for me.
No, because you got to have the whole
vibe. Ladies,
no.
I love it.
No. And the other question I would like to know, because this is interesting to me. Again, go back, I hark back to when I lived all over the world. I would love to know, what is the opinion of Americans in South Africa?
It's a great question.
That was always an interesting thing.
What is the opinion
of Americans? What do South Africans think of Americans?
Gotcha. That is very interesting, because now I have a lot of American friends. I have an American family. So I think they are a very specific type of people. So I am very used to the way that Americans are. So they're very patriotic, and they can be very outspoken and straightforward. And the funny thing is I love my American friends and family. So I think, it's if you had asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have turned around and going, oh, they've got the life. Oh, the American dream, Though I say that, and that's still true today. You can be anything you want to be in America. That is true. And that still remains true today. Whereas I think it's a little bit harder here. You can't, walking dogs is not really a career that you can live on. Dancing, unless you get something really good, is not really a career you can live on. I know it's very hard to try and explain. Cleaning houses, people make a full-on career of that in America. I've seen it when I was an au pair in America. That was they would come in and clean the house, and that was their career, and they got good money from it. I can't really say the same here in South Africa. Is that a good answer? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, is the answer.
I think when you're as open, and you understand other cultures better, like you were saying earlier, Bethany, you do want to know what people think of Americans, because there is this stigma of like, we're loud, we're obnoxious, we want what we want,
Americans.
Yeah, we are the epitome of the Karen, right? Like, that's what people think.
That's a little bit harsh. I don't know if I feel that way. But then again, as I said, I've got family and friends there, and I love you guys. So
you also have met enough Americans at this point that your eyes have been, opened, and you see that it's not that typical stereotype. But yeah.
Right. I love Americans, so it's all good. So yeah, I think we've gone over the time quite a bit, but I am so thankful for the conversation that we've had, ladies. Please tell the listeners where they can find you. Jenn, where can they find you if they are inspired by you and they want to know more about you and they would love to reach out and ask you more questions? Where can they find you?
So you can see up-to-date kind of projects and stuff. That's on Instagram at Projects Within Reach. You can find us on the website, which is projectswithinreach.com. And I'm sure, and on YouTube. Sorry, I forget about YouTube, but you can find your, loving friend on YouTube telling you what you need, what you don't need.
Awesome. You also have a LinkedIn page, yeah?
I do as well. See, there's too much. Pinterest. They're all there.
They can find us anywhere now, right? It's like we're everywhere.
Right. What about yourself, Bethany?
Well, I would say if you have cancer questions, of course, reach out to cancer.org and the 800 number. But if you need me, you can. I'm on Facebook, Bethany Crick with a K Lynch. I am on Instagram, and you can email me at bethanyk.lynch@cancer.org.
Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate it. You can find me personally on LinkedIn. That would be my business page, Shireen Buerta. But you can most likely find the podcast information and all that on the actual website, which is friendsfromwildplaces.buzzsprout.com. That is the website for the podcast. You can also find it on the YouTube, where you can go like, comment and subscribe, share the podcast, do all the things, because your support is really needed. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next time. And remember, you got this, and stay wild. Bye, guys.
Bye.
You've been listening to Friends from Wild Places with Shireen Buerta. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast from the links to catch every episode and unleash your passion.